With a long, sullied history of extremely poor DBZ games before it, Dragon Ball Z Budokai was a bit of a revelation. 2 years and a so-so sequel later, and we have Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. This is far and away the best Dragon Ball Z game, period. This is a must-have for Dragon Ball Z fans, and the action is also fast-paced and viscerally satisfying that it can genuinely appeal to those completely uninterested in Dragon Ball Z. Budokai 3 retains all of the gameplay fundamentals of its predecessors, and it adds several new mechanics which have significant impact on the action. First is the teleportation counter system. Simply tap the D-pad and the X button at the right moment, and you'll instantly teleport right behind your opponent to deliver a crushing blow. If your opponent is quick enough on his or her feet though, they can pull a reversal and teleport behind you as well. This little teleport maneuver can also be used to pop up behind your opponent after they've been knocked through the air and then ping-pong them back and forth a few times. All this may sound a little odd to outsiders, but Dragon Ball Z fans will recognize it as an integral part of a good Dragon Ball Z fight. Also key are massive energy attacks, which the Budokai series has always dutifully represented. Budokai 3 is the first to introduce the concept of a beam struggle. Basically, two characters throw a massive beam of energy at each other and then push to overpower each other's beams. All you need to do here is rotate the analog sticks or mash on the buttons as fast as you can. So, it's not that big a deal from the gameplay perspective, but it brings the experience that much closer to the source material. Oh yeah, and the beams, they look totally awesome. The Dragon Rush is the most important new mechanic, and it boils the rock, paper, scissors underpinning of all fighting games down to its very essence. At 3 points during the Dragon Rush, both players have to press one of the face buttons. If the attacker can avoid hitting the same face button as the player being attacked at each of these turns, the series of attacks will end with a punishing energy blast. If the button presses match up at any point though, the Dragon Rush will cancel out and go back to regular action. The action is so incredibly over the top and the camera cuts so perfectly, the Dragon Rush is mind-blowing the first time you see it. The downer is that the Dragon Rush is basically the same for every single character. More variety would have been nice, but the Dragon Rush is still a fantastic addition to the action regardless. Successful Dragon Rushes will also cause your opponent to become fatigued. Now, if your opponent's color-coded fatigue meter goes red and you're in hyper mode, it's a great time to launch your ultimate attack finishing move. Like the Dragon Rush, the ultimate attack goes for incredibly over-the-top dramatic cuts, and the attacks themselves are downright ludicrous. What's really interesting about all of the changes made to the gameplay in Budokai 3 is that they make the action slightly more technical, but they're not for the sake of making the game more like other fighting games. Instead, they're done to make the game feel as much like the show as possible. In this respect, Budokai 3 is quite successful. Budokai 3 replaces the crummy board game found in Budokai 2 with Dragon Universe, which feels more like the story mode in the original Budokai, except that it's made up of individual stories. Ultimately, it's a wrapper for a series of fights with specific opponents, but exploring the overworld can net you some cool little extras. The Dragon Universe also introduces an RPG element, allowing you to customize your character's performance as you progress. There are definitely some chinks in the armor, such as the way story sequences are relayed with still frame shots of characters and voiceovers, but it's still better than the tedious Dragon World mode that was found in Budokai 2. There's also basic one-on-one duel mode and a ladder-style tournament mode, and with all of these different modes and a font of unlockable characters, costumes, and environments, Budokai 3 has incredible lasting value whether you're playing by yourself or against your friends. The gameplay in Budokai 3 already makes it the most fun entry in the series, but the visuals really seal the deal. The cel-shaded character models introduced in Budokai 2 have been cleaned up a bit, and the environments look a bit nicer, but it's the game's expert use of special effects, some cool new animations, and great dramatic camera angles that really improve the visuals and elevate the overall experience. The entire game just crackles with power now. Even when standing still, a cool-looking glow will emanate from the characters. Energy blasts feel like they have incredible force, with nice light bleed and splash effects really making the energy seem tangible. All told, Budokai 3 looks absolutely stunning. Furthering the game's authenticity is a sound design where basically every element is lifted from the Dragon Ball Z anime, and it features a ton of new voice work from the American TV cast. Now, if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, go get a copy of this game. Just do it right now. It's certainly not perfect, but it recreates the DBZ experience better than any other game before it. There's definitely a lot of fan service in the game, but the gameplay is also just plain fun, and anyone that's up for a simple, high-impact fighting game should have a blast with Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3.